Hello, everybody, and welcome into another season preview show here at the Hockey Writers YouTube channel. And I'm your host, Matthew Zator, and we are up to the Anaheim Ducks in the Pacific Division here. I've got Justin coming in to cover the Ducks for this preview. He, of course, covers the Philadelphia Flyers, and he was on that preview. But thanks, Justin, for stepping in for the Ducks.
I am interested about the Ducks this year, what they can do. So I'm glad to step in and talk about them.
For sure. Yeah, very young team still. And they got a few veterans that they've added from the New York Rangers. Not all in the offseason, but they added another one in the offseason. So let's start there because that's where the big additions came, was up front. And you're looking at Chris Kreider and Mikael Granlund coming in. Granlund as a free agent, Kreider getting traded from the New York Rangers, joining Jacob Trouba, who was added in last season. So what do you think about these two veterans? These guys, I mean, Granlund had a really good season with mostly with I'd say he was in Dallas. He was the better of between where he was before. But what do you think about these two guys?
I think it's always best to temper expectations when it comes to older free agents. Kreider's kind of taken a step back in his career a little bit, and Granlund had a great year last year, but you always want to be cautious to me. However, I think right now, Chris Kreider, he's a great penalty killer, and I still think he can score goals. I don't think he's a 50-goal guy anymore, but I do think he can be a middle six kind of veteran leader, going to play special teams, and that's important. And for what they gave up, I think you're getting good value there, and you have a young team. And yeah, I think that's a good move for them. They help the Rangers out a little bit, but I don't think they care about how it benefits another team. They care about themselves. And I think Ryder's a good player. It's going to be an interesting move, I think. And again, he's always, to me, stood out on the penalty kill and on the power play. This is a guy who, can be a versatile player in your lineup. As for Granlund, he might be a third-line guy, maybe considering their center depth, which we'll get into. But that's a great center depth that they have now. If it's Carlson, they have McTavish, and they have Granlund. If that's their 1-3, it's pretty good. And you can win those matchups on the third line, again, if he is playing center and not on the wing or something like that. That's important to have. It's important to have good depth to win games. This team wasn't that far from being competitive. There were stretches where they looked pretty good, and maybe they take that next step, and this maybe helps them.
Yeah, I mean, Granlund really fit on that top line in Dallas. So, I mean, he's, of course, not going to play as big of a role in Anaheim. I mean, he might. You never know. But, like, the way it's slotted, it looks like he might be this third-line center. He was really good with the Sharks on a very young team there. So he might putting a same type of role in Anaheim where he's just a veteran guy and kind of just helps the young guys along. And he was actually one of the Sharks' better players, too, when he was there. So, I mean, he could be the same in Anaheim, I think. And Kreider, I mean, yeah, he's far removed from it's not that far removed, but it seems like it from that 50-goal season. But I think he can still pot 20. I mean, he's still a guy that he makes his living around the net. I mean, that's what he does. So, I mean, he might have lost a step, but really most of his goals get scored. Like where Corey Perry, I mean, that's why he's still good because that's where he scores his goals. He doesn't need to be quick. And Kreider, I don't know if he was ever a really fast guy. So, I mean, he's just very good in front of the net. So he'd probably be able to do that in Anaheim too.
I still think Kreider's a good skater. I haven't looked at his metrics, but like he's always, I think that was one of his good traits is skating. I'm not sure what he is now because, again, he's a little older, but I guess maybe that's something to keep in mind, how the skating looks for him.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's move to the rest of the forward group, and this is still Mason McTavish still hasn't signed his RFA deal yet. I think he's the last one now because Connor Zary signed today. So he's the last big guy. I think he'll probably sign now within the next week or two. But as of right now, he's still unsigned. So what do you think about the forward group, which, again, 2 new forwards added? They traded Zegras, of course, to the Philadelphia Flyers. I mean, what are the storylines in this forward group this season?
The number one for me is how Leo Carlsson plays. He hasn't really broken out yet to the point where he is a legit first-line superstar that you expect him to be. I believe he had mid-40 points last year in 70-something games. So it was a good year for a very young player, but he hasn't been a star yet. And this year, in my opinion, is when we will see that version of Leo Carlsson. I've always seen the flashes. I have really fallen in love with that play style, with what kind of player he is. He's awesome. He is so gifted offensively, and I think he's going to be one of the best passers in the league someday, and he has flashes of goal-scoring talent, and he can even play the other end of the ice. I'm just waiting for that breakout to happen, and it's inevitable. With a player like that, it's simply going to happen. It's just a matter of when. And what's interesting is that he's got some talent around him. I think that if he plays with Troy Terry, let's say, that is a guy who can score goals, that is a guy who can create for himself, for his team around him. That's a great guy to have next to Leo Carlsson. Cutter Gauthier, another guy. He can score goals. He can create. These are important pieces to have for your franchise center. And look at Connor Bedard in Chicago. He kind of has to do a lot of things by himself. Leo Carlsson's in kind of an ideal situation in that way. You have guys who, again, are going to score goals for him. And that's key to really getting that confidence and breaking out into a superstar player. Maybe he's not that this season, but I think he'll be pretty close. And I am very confident in his ability to lead this team. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but one day to a cup or to something adjacent to contending teams. He is a franchise player, in my opinion. So that's the big one for me. That's the player I'm going to be looking at. Mason McTavish, obviously, we talked about it. He hasn't signed yet. I think he will. It's safe to assume that always. It's rare for an RFA like that to just get traded.
Yeah.
Brady Tkachuk, I think a few years ago, might have been like 5 years ago at this point, it dragged out a bit, but he signed. I think he'll sign soon. I don't know the rumors on it. I don't know if they're close, but I do think it'll happen, and that'll be a big addition for this team. Another young guy, only drafted in 2021. We often think of players like that because he's been in the league for a little bit. We often think like he's not going to go crazy, but I think he could, because he's very young and he has another step in him. I know he does, and he's not what he is. I think he's going to be better. And that's a very good, if not one of the better second line centers in the NHL, if he can take that next step. And again, I am fairly confident in this forward core, not necessarily to score a bunch of goals, but I think that they can really be a pretty good unit. They got pieces there, and their young guys have talent around them to the point where I think that they kind of soar this season. And that's what I'm really looking at on offense. Some of the younger guys taking that step. Also, Gauthier, he is also very young. He's even younger than McTavish.
Yeah.
So that's another guy. He's a sophomore in the NHL now. We'll see what he can become, because he had a good year last year. I'm hoping for more, and I think he can give more.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, it took him a long time to score his first NHL goal, but after that, he started kind of setting into his groove there. And yeah, second season, maybe he'll get scoring a bit quicker than he did in the beginning there. So yeah, very young group, but yeah, a lot of potential. He even got like veteran like Alex Killorn, still a pretty productive guy, and he's going to be there too. So you're looking at like Kreider, Granlund, and Killorn. That's a pretty good veterans that can still score. So I mean, and then add in all the young guys, I think they could be maybe a bit of an underrated team offensively, but we'll see how it all goes for them. All right, defense. Now they had no changes as far as I could see, there was no changes for the defense. They're bringing back a lot of the same guys. Of course, Jacob Trouba getting a full season. What do you think about this group? Again, I'd say mix of veterans because you got Radko Gudas in there as well. I got Olin Zellweger, he's really broken out already. Minchukov as well. I mean, they're very young. And then you got Tristan Luneau. They're a very good group, a very good mobile group. So what do you think about the defense?
Long term, I am very, very excited about what this group can be. For a little bit there, it wasn't great for a lot of years. I think when the Ducks really started to kind of be that basement team, the defense wasn't very good. And now they're kind of really embracing that youth movement, I think. And Jackson Lacombe is the biggest one for me. That is a guy who I think could become kind of a Thomas Harley breakout guy like last season for the Stars. Harley was a Norris caliber defenseman. When Miro Heiskanen was out, he was amazing. And I think that Lacombe is similar, not in terms of play style, but in terms of impact. I think he can be one of the best defensemen in the league. I think he could be a top 10 guy when he hits his prime. And that's going to be big for them. And this season, I think he is going to be a capable top pairing guy. I think he was that last season. And it's important to have that because they really haven't had that. Cam Fowler was getting those big minutes. They traded him, but it wasn't really fair for Fowler because he didn't have much talent around him and nobody really capable of joining him on that top pairing. He's played well in St. Louis, but he didn't have that in Anaheim. And now I think they're starting to build up a bit, and Lacombe is in a good situation. And then you have other younger guys who I'm going to be looking at. Zellweger, super talented. I'm very high on his potential. We'll see what he is this season. Can he be a top 4 legit impact type of defenseman? If he is, obviously that's very big. Luneau, if he's on the team and playing big minutes, that's huge as well. I am high on his potential. Just a bunch of young guys. And Minchukov, of course, he already has played well in the NHL. I think very well.
Yeah.
I think there were instances where he was a healthy scratch. That was a little bit weird, but get him in the lineup, get him playing big minutes. I think he's capable of that. And that's a big thing. Capable. They have a lot of guys who are capable of rounding out that defense. And the veterans are decent. Trouba is going to be a good player, I think, for a second/third pairing role. I think Gudas is still a very good shutdown defenseman, even at his age. I think he's a bit on the older side at this point, but he's still got good impacts. One of the more underrated shutdown D in the league. And yeah, I think they have a good balance of defense and offense and two-way talent and guys who can move the puck up the ice. Zellweger is one of the big ones for me in that department. So yeah, I'm intrigued the long term, and also right now, I think they can be a good unit, one of the better units even in the NHL.
Yeah, I mean that's been one of their struggles is defensively has always been something, but yeah, once they round it out, I think, like you say, good mix of veterans and young guys, and mobility and physicality as well, which is it's something you need on the back end. So yeah, I do agree with that too. This might be the season that they played both the forwards and the defense figure it out because they had lots of talent in both areas. So we'll see how it all goes. All right, goaltending. I mean, Lucas Dostal is now the clear-cut number one because now John Gibson is in Detroit. So he's taken over as a starter, and his backup are 2 former Red Wings, which is kind of funny. Which is Peter Mrazek, Ville Husso. We'll see who becomes the backup there. What do you think about this potential? Like, it's I guess to be a trio because I don't know. Right now, it is a trio. What are you looking at for the goaltending?
I think in the future, if you're looking long term, I am optimistic. I think he's never not been, to me, a starting caliber goalie. I think in his rookie year, I thought he looked good. I was thinking to myself, hey, he's starter worthy already. And his second year, same thing. He got more starts, and he was basically a starter at that point. I think he played almost 40 games or so. And then last year, he was the starter. I think he played above 50 games. So that's big. He's really starting to take on that role, and he got a big contract for it. The backup goaltending is obviously worse without Gibson there. Mrazek has shown decent ability even in Chicago as recently as that. Husso, I'm not as sold on, but there's a decent backup in there somewhere. I am sure of that. But, however, there is the fact that this was a very good goaltending team, one of the best in the NHL, and I think they're almost destined to be a little worse.
Yeah.
I think they were sixth in save percentage. Actually, they were seventh. Are they going to be better than that? Probably not after getting rid of Gibson. And are they going to be the same? That's optimistic a little bit. You see teams like this kind of take a step back where their young goalie has an increased workload and asked to do a lot, and maybe he takes a step back a bit. It's very possible. And so that kind of complicates the chances of them going to the playoffs. If you look at it that way, where if they're not top 10 again, they're just not going to make the playoffs. I think that's reasonable to say. So you're really going to be looking at goaltending. Can they sustain what they had last year, even without Gibson in the picture? Because even though he was hurt, he was still very good when he did play. And it was really kind of a bounce back year for him, I think, because there were some years where he wasn't great and the defense in front of him wasn't great either. But I think last year was really good for him. And it's hard to say goodbye to a guy like that who's been with your team a long time as well. So we'll see what happens if Dostal is truly a number one goalie who can be one of the better guys in the league. He was basically a top 10 goalie last year, arguably. So we'll see if he can do it again. Because if he can, that's really good for their long-term future.
For sure. I mean, he's really young, and the thing is Gibson, and there was going to be a time where there was in trade rumors forever. There's eventually he was going to get traded, and Dostal looks like he could be a good replacement. I say there could be some growing pains, like you said, this season, because this is his crease now. I mean, you don't have Gibson there. I mean, Mrazek and Husso have potential, like you said, be a good backup, but they're definitely, if they have to be the starter, that's probably not a good thing. So hopefully Dostal can step into play 60 games or so, and then the other guys just kind of fill it in, and we'll see how it goes there. All right. Well, the Ducks also have a new head coach, and this is Joel Quenneville coming back into the NHL after a few seasons away. What do you think about the decision to hire him, first of all, and then what are expectations going into this season?
Well, it's not really my place to comment on whether, because there's that situation.
Yeah.
I don't want to discuss it too much.
Yeah.
It's beyond hockey. Again, it's not really my place to comment on it because I don't know things that people know. But that aside, I think it is an upgrade at the very least. Last year, even though the Ducks overachieved in some people's eyes, they had an 80-point season. They rose from the basement up to a pretty respectable team in terms of standings, in terms of record. But I never thought that Cronin was a great coach for them. I thought he was probably their weakest link in terms of their whole team. And I wasn't really surprised that they let him go. But I think that opens up a lot of opportunity for them. With a coach like Quenneville, all the controversy aside, he's got a great resume. He wins, and he did it with Florida before he had to step down. He's won with Chicago. He's got a very, very good resume and a long resume too, going beyond Chicago, before Chicago. So this could be one of the biggest upgrades that they've made in terms of coaching. I think that could be huge for them to kind of change things around, because there were some lineup decisions that I didn't agree with. I thought that the Ducks sometimes looked just not great. They were kind of a hard team to watch at times under Cronin, and even though they had a decent record, I've always kind of felt that way under Cronin specifically. So this could be an upgrade, but we really don't know, because coaching, it's all up in the air until you really see what's out there.
For sure, a very veteran coach. He's got very long list of teams he's coached and all the other things that he's done at international level as well, right? So I think he could end up being, like you say, an upgrade. So we'll see what happens there, because he hasn't coached in the league in a couple seasons, so it might be the growing pains at the beginning, but we'll see how it all goes with Quenneville in charge for their third head coach in the last, it's been, Cronin didn't get a long time. And then before that, who was before that?
I believe it was Dallas Eakins.
Yeah, Dallas Eakins was before that. And he didn't really get a long period either. So I think hopefully maybe Quenneville can have a few seasons to try to form this team that looks like it's getting close to breaking through and being a playoff team again. So we'll see if he can push them over the line. All right, looking at the division now, we've talked, other Pacific Division teams. We've talked about it, and that there's a middle section where all these teams kind of live, and the Ducks are probably in there. Do you agree with that? Is that probably where they are? Are they more in the middle section, not right at the bottom anymore, but maybe moving up to that position?
I think you could argue that. Vegas and Edmonton are kind of clearly at the top there. The Kings, I thought they took a step back this offseason, but I don't think that the Ducks will be there. The Kings they're developed. They have stars. I think they're clearly in that upper echelon. I think they're kind of in that mid-lower range where I'm not sure they're better than Vancouver. In fact, I wouldn't really argue that. They might be in that tier, but I wouldn't argue that until they show me. And similar with Calgary, they might be in that tier, but the gap between Calgary and them was pretty big, and it's going to be hard to make that up. But if they do, they're basically a playoff team. The Flames almost made the playoffs. So I think that they might be better than the Kraken. I think that they are better than the Sharks. So, I think they're kind of in that. I guess I'll just give a specific range, that maybe 85-ish range, where they are not quite a playoff team, but they're competitive. I think that's a realistic expectation. Obviously, you can be optimistic and say they get 90 or more, and you can be pessimistic and say they get 75 or below. But in that middle range, 85 or so is probably the most realistic in my eyes.
Yeah, I think so too. I think they're one of those teams that they're on the cusp, but I don't think they're there yet. And I don't know, with being around the Canucks, I think they're pretty much around there. I just think the goaltending for the Canucks is a lot better. And the defense, I'd say defense and offense, the Ducks are actually pretty close to what they are. So, I think the goaltending is what kind of separates it right now, but we'll see how the season goes. All right, let's do our quick fire round here now and start with what's the biggest storyline going into this season? We've talked about a few things. What is in your mind?
To me, it's what Jackson Lacombe looks like. I talked about it. I think he could really break out into a legit star player, and that's what I'm going to be looking at a lot this year, because I was impressed what he did the year before.
Yeah, he really surprised me. I you're always talking about Mintyukov, Zellweger, and guys like that, and then Lacombe just comes out of nowhere and becomes I think he was their leading scorer on defense. So, I mean, I didn't expect that, a guy like that. So, definitely to see if he can maybe make that something that happens this season too. All right, what do you got for breakout stars?
Maybe this is a little bit out there, but I think that Sam Colangelo, I really liked what I saw out of him last year. He has been very good at non-NHL levels. I think if he gets good ice time, he could break out into a solid middle six type guy, if not more. I liked what I saw out of him last year in a somewhat brief stint. I think he could be a good player for them, and I was pleasantly surprised with what I saw out of him.
Yeah, I like that one too. I think he was another guy that kind of was a bit of a surprise in the forward group. So yeah, he could break out this season. All right, what do you got for someone that needs to bounce back right now?
Maybe not necessarily a bounce back guy, but as I mentioned, Leo Carlsson, his rookie year was good. I would say his sophomore year was about the same. So you're looking for not necessarily a bounce back, but you're looking for a guy who breaks out in a way. It's year 3, and I have high hopes, and I think he will break out this year. But we have to wait and see. He hasn't truly been that, again, first line caliber forward at this point.
Yeah, I think he's close. We'll see if he can do that this season. All right, moving to X factors. What do you got for potential ones this season?
I mentioned it a little bit, but the surrounding talent that can score goals. You talk about guys like Kreider and Terry and Gauthier and even Granlund, guys who can score goals for these star players and these young stars like Carlson and McTavish, who I'm going to mention them specifically. That's how I look at them. If they can kind of help them round out their games, I think that's big, and that's an X factor for this team because, again, not many good young players have that around them. They're in rebuilding situations, and it's hard to score when you're in that situation.
Yeah, they definitely have support, and like I say, those veterans aren't over the hill. They're older, but they're still productive and coming off some pretty good seasons. So I think, definitely good to be around that a lot of young guys don't have for sure. All right, well, we talked about a lot of young guys. Do you see anyone surprising and making the team at our training camp for the Ducks?
I would be very excited if Beckett Seneca could make the team. I'm not sure where people stand on that, whether he is a legit candidate, but I think he's got the talent. I think he showed last year with Oshawa that he can kind of be an NHL player. I think that he's ready for the next step, but we'll see how the Ducks think. We'll see how Quenneville and the coaching staff and the management thinks. But I think he's ready to be a third line, maybe to start, maybe moved up to the second line. That could really add a lot to their team.
Yeah, he's super skilled. I'm really excited to see him in the NHL at some point. All right, what about other prospects? I mean, the Ducks, again, very strong prospect pool. A lot of them are getting into the NHL now, but they still have a few guys that are kind of in the pool, not in the NHL yet. Who else should everyone be watching?
The obvious one for me is Roger McQueen. He was hurt a lot in his draft year, and it's kind of a question mark. I think they took a chance on talent, and I think he's got a lot of it, and I thought they got pretty good value with McQueen. There were reasons why he fell in the draft, obviously, but I think he could be a top 5 player-ish from that class. It's very possible. And I think we'll start to know that maybe this season, what a healthy version of him can look like, because he really hasn't been healthy at all. So it's a big year for him, and all eyes should be on him, not just because he was your top draft pick, but because it's such a mystery at this point.
Yeah. And he's going to the NCAA too. So we'll see how he kind of navigates that and hopefully stays healthy throughout as well. All right. This one actually with the Ducks is maybe a little difficult to project this. So who's gonna lead the team in scoring on forwards and defense?
On offense, I'll go with Leo Carlsson. Again, I'm projecting that breakout. And on defense, I guess I will go with Lacombe. There are some offensive guys on that back end. I don't necessarily think he's a superstar scorer, but I think he's going to get big minutes, and I think he's going to score points.
All right. All right, let's finish it with the bold prediction. What do you got for that?
I will say that, and again, I keep talking about Leo Carlsson. I think that he could score 85 points this season and really start to break out into that star, almost superstar type impact.
I can see it. I mean, one of these years he'll do it. And then if he does it this year, that new contract is going to be pretty good, right? So it's coming out of his ELC, right? So I believe, unless I'm wrong.
I don't
European
think
players, I always...
Yeah, because he got drafted in 2023. I'm not sure if he'll be eligible for extension or if that'll expire.
Yeah, he's an RFA next season. So
okay, yeah.
So I was right. He's in his final year of his ELC. So yeah, if he has an 85-point season, I could demand a bit of money. So yeah, it's gonna be definitely a guy to watch, and he definitely has that potential. So we'll see. All right. Well, thanks, Justin, for coming on, talking about the Ducks and stepping in for a very exciting team to watch this season. And I mean, every season it seems like we're looking for, maybe this is the year that all the young guys kind of mix with the veterans and it works out. And they took a step last season. We'll see if they take a bigger step this one, and make the playoffs and make the Pacific Division a little more tougher than it's been lately. So thanks, and make sure checking out everything at thehawkwriters.com for all of our season preview stuff. Haley does cover the Ducks on the site in the written realm, but you can take a look at her articles as they come out, and all of our other preview content we've got on the site with all the teams, and of course all of our videos on the YouTube channel and the Substack newsletters that come into your inbox. Depending on how many teams you got, you could get one every day, but make sure you're checking all that out. But until our next preview, we will see you next time.